What if I told you you don't actually check your phone because you're bored? You check it because your brain has learned that something interesting might be waiting for you. A notification, a message, a new video, a like, a comment, and sometimes nothing. Yet you still check again and again and again. That's the strange part. You don't need to know what's behind the screen. Your brain only needs to believe that there might be a reward. And that little feeling? That's where dopamine enters the story. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Dopamine isn't simply the chemical that makes you happy. It's much more interesting than that. And once you understand what it's actually doing, you might start seeing your entire life differently. 1. Dopamine doesn't just chase pleasure. Imagine you're walking through a forest. Suddenly, you smell freshly baked bread. Your brain doesn't just say, "Wow, bread tastes good." It starts asking, "Where is it? Can I get it? How quickly can I get there?" That difference is important. Dopamine is heavily involved in motivation, learning, attention, and reward prediction. It's part of the machinery that makes your brain say, "That thing over there might be worth pursuing." And this is why dopamine can be incredibly powerful, because your brain doesn't only learn from what feels good. It learns from what might feel good. That's why you can open an app without knowing what you're looking for. You can refresh a page without expecting anything specific. You can hear your phone vibrate and immediately wonder, "Who was that?" Your brain has learned a pattern. Check arrow, maybe something rewarding arrow, check again. And the uncertainty can make the loop surprisingly powerful. 2. The virtual reward trap. Here's where things get really interesting. Suppose I give you a chocolate every time you press a button. Press chocolate. Press chocolate. Eventually, you know exactly what's coming. But now imagine I change the rules. Sometimes you get chocolate, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get something even better. Suddenly, you're pressing that button a lot more. Why? Because your brain is trying to figure out, what happens this time? Unpredictable rewards can strongly reinforce behavior, and you can see versions of this everywhere. Social media feeds, notifications, short-form videos, games, even checking your email. You don't know what the next scroll will reveal, and that uncertainty creates a tiny question in your mind. Maybe the next one will be interesting. So you scroll, then scroll again, then again. Not necessarily because every video is amazing, but because the next one could be. And that's a completely different kind of psychological pull. 3. Your brain can learn the cue. Now let's make this personal. Imagine you hear the notification sound from your phone. You haven't even looked at the screen yet, but your attention moves toward it. That's because your brain can learn associations. The sound becomes a cue. The cue predicts something, and eventually, the cue itself can trigger anticipation. This happens with all kinds of things. A particular song can remind you of a moment. The smell of food can make you hungry. Seeing your favorite game can make you want to play. And your phone? It can become a portable collection of cues, a little rectangle constantly whispering, something might be happening. And the most fascinating part? You can become attached not to the reward itself, but to the anticipation of the reward. That's why sometimes you unlock your phone, look around, realize there's nothing important there, lock it, and then a few minutes later,
You do it again. Your hand moves before you've even consciously decided. That's not proof that dopamine has hijacked your brain. It's something more ordinary and more fascinating. Your brain has learned a habit.
The dopamine loop. And this is where the story becomes bigger than your phone. Because the same basic learning machinery can influence almost anything you repeatedly do. Here's a simple loop. Cue. Something grabs your attention. Wanting. Your brain predicts a possible reward. Action. You do something to pursue it. Reward. You get something interesting, satisfying, relieving, or enjoyable. Then your brain updates its expectations. And if the experience was useful or rewarding enough, the behavior becomes easier to repeat next time. Run that loop hundreds or thousands of times, and you get something incredibly powerful. A habit. And habits don't always feel like decisions. That's the scary part. You might say, I decided to watch one video. But sometimes the decision was practically made before you noticed you were making it. And this isn't limited to entertainment. It can work in positive directions too. Learning something difficult, practicing an instrument, training for sport, finishing a project, solving a difficult problem. When your brain starts associating effort with meaningful rewards, the same learning machinery can help you build behaviors you actually value. So dopamine isn't your enemy. It's part of the system that helps you learn what matters. The question is, what are you teaching it to chase? The question that changes everything. Think about your average day. What gets your attention? What makes you reach for your phone? What do you automatically check? What activities make 5 minutes disappear? And what activities feel almost impossible to start? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Your attention is being trained all the time. Every click, every scroll, every notification, every game, every video. Every time you choose instant stimulation over something difficult, your brain is collecting information about what you value and what predicts rewards. Not consciously, not morally, just biologically. And that means you don't need to completely eliminate dopamine. You don't need to live like a monk. You don't need to fear pleasure. Instead, start noticing the loop. What is the cue? What am I expecting? What action am I about to take? And most importantly, did I choose this? Or did I simply follow the strongest cue in front of me? Because maybe the goal isn't to control dopamine. Maybe the goal is to become more aware of what you're training your brain to pursue. Your brain is constantly learning. Every day you're teaching it what deserves your attention. And dopamine isn't sitting inside your head like a tiny puppet master controlling every decision. It's part of a much more complicated system, one that helps you learn, anticipate, motivate yourself, and repeat behaviors. But those behaviors can become habits, and habits can quietly shape a life. So the next time your hand reaches for your phone, pause for 1 second and ask yourself, what am I actually looking for? Because sometimes you're not searching for information, you're searching for a feeling. And once you can recognize the difference, you've already taken back a little bit of control.